What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another mock draft. It is your boy, Matt Bruning, here with campus2canton.com, one of the co-founders, and I'm going to be doing a mock draft here. It's going to be one round, but it's going to be based on the landing spots of our team's mock draft. That's right. Our NFL draft team did a mock draft that should be out on the website right now, free for anybody to see. I will link the article in the description of this YouTube video. You can check it out. Our NFL draft team does a great job. We had Mike Valerie and Barnabas Lee in Mobile last week for the Senior Bowl, doing all of that stuff. They did great coverage. Follow them at FF_Dirty Mike and at PKGB Lee for both of those guys. Again, they did incredible work. Check out the YouTube. You guys are already here on the YouTube channel. If you missed any of their live streams, any of their Senior Bowl coverage, check it out. It was incredible. Might be a little bit biased there, but I thought it was really good. But both those guys have participated in this mock. Myself, Dwight Peoples, and Colin Decker, along with Corey Pereira. Did a 2-round NFL mock draft with some trades in there, and you're going to see some trades and why I took some players a little bit higher. Again, this is just a 1-round mock. We only did 2 in that, and I just kind of wanted to base what I think a super flex rookie draft might look like if the NFL draft goes this way. So let's jump into the rookie mock based on our Campus to Canton staff mock draft 1.0. All right, so we're going to get all this stuff set up and ready to go. And as you can see here, 12 picks. Again, this is my rookie mock 3.0 on the YouTube channel here. My head is like completely cut off. Oh, well. It is my 3.0 mock. Again, it's going to be completely based on the landing spots of these players. And we're going to start with number 1. This is a super flex mock, so quarterback value matters and quarterbacks matter. In our mock draft, one of our drafters had the Indianapolis Colts trading up with the Chicago Bears for the number 1 pick and taking C.J. Stroud, quarterback of Ohio State. It was not me who made this, just so everybody knows. So that is who I am taking here at number 1 in this draft. I think that matters. If a team is coming up 2-1 to take him, and obviously it's the Colts here trading up from the 4 spot, giving up multiple picks to get him, I think you've got to take C.J. Stroud. They want to build around him. He's got some weapons, right? Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor. He's got a decent offensive line. I know it's kind of faltered a little bit over the past couple of years, but it is still, at least in my opinion, and widely considered still one of the top 10 offensive lines in the game. Now, as of this moment, we still don't know who the coach is going to be, what this coaching staff is going to look like. But I think with the weapons and C.J. Stroud's arm talent, this is an interesting bet to make for the Colts moving up. I know a lot of people think they're going to move up for Will Levis, so we'll see what happens. But if they do move up and take C.J. Stroud, I think he's got to be at least in the argument for the number 1 pick off the board. At number 2, this is going to be interesting. I think a lot of these picks are going to be very interchangeable, but I went Bryce Young, who did go next in the draft to the Houston Texans. I think this is the perfect spot for him, even before the Cliff Kingsbury news of him possibly coming as the offensive coordinator. Now, he is not going to be that. Obviously, some people were a little worried about that because, the Cardinals struggled here and there. Even though Kyler Murray was really good, they struggled offensively at times. I like this move for Bryce Young. I think he is the perfect fit for the Texans and what he can do, especially behind a bad offensive line. The big thing is going to be getting him some weapons, and I'll give you guys a little surprise. They're going to get him one in this draft, and they will be picked here soon as well. So I think that this is a good landing spot for Bryce Young. He just has it, guys. Like, he may not have the strongest arm. He may not be the biggest. He may not be the fastest, but this guy just wins at every level, and he just finds ways to win in big games. Go back and look at everything he did as a junior and a senior. As a sophomore and a junior. I know he never won the national championship, but not all of that was on him. When you lose multiple weapons in the national championship game against probably arguably top 5 defense of all time in Georgia a couple of years ago, and yet they still kept it close to the end of the game. Bryce Young is it. He has it. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. I think he's got a fairly safe floor as well. So that's why I would take him here. At the 3rd pick, I think there's going to be a lot of arguments for this guy to go 1 or 2 in the draft, and I have no issue with it. Wherever you want to take him, I think this guy is as close to a can't-miss prospect as possible. Not to toot my own horn, because there's a lot of people who says, I said that about Jonathan Taylor. A lot of people who were out on him because he wasn't quote-unquote fast. Bijan's not going to run that fast. That's who I'm taking here at 1-3. As you see here, he went in our mock draft to the Eagles at the 30th pick. Full transparency, this is being recorded literally right before the Super Bowl is kicking off, so I don't know who's won yet. Can't wait, though. We'll see what happens. I imagine the Eagles are going to have a really good game along with the Chiefs. Can't wait. So for those of you who enjoyed the Super Bowl yesterday, let's hope it was a really great game. Bijan Robinson, though, to the Eagles, I think solves an issue they've had for the past couple years. As much as I love Miles Sanders, and I do think he's a good running back, he's just not game-changing at that position. If you take a top 5 offensive line, a fantasy-wise, and actually I think probably NFL-wise, top-tier tight end in Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and now Jalen Hurts, who's going to get paid. The Eagles come out and said they're going to pay him this year. They should. Baltimore, we're looking at you with Lamar. Regardless, the Eagles paying Jalen Hurts. Bijan Robinson's the missing piece. I don't know how you're going to stop this offense if they add Bijan on there. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, they got Kenneth Game. Well, they got Boston Scott. Will they mix those guys in? I don't think so, guys. Bijan is going to be special, and I think behind an offensive line like that, I think it's going to drive Cowboys fans crazy because most of them live down here in Texas, and they've watched their guy Bijan for the past 3 years just be incredible. And even if it wasn't a good offensive line, if he had gone to, say, like the Texans, go watch what this guy did with a kind of bad offensive line for the past 2 years, making like 4 defenders miss in the backfield to get positive yards. Bijan's got everything that you want, and he's a good receiving back as well. So I have no issue with you taking him at 1 or 2. I think 3 is probably the farthest he falls in most drafts. Now, it is a super flex, so maybe he falls 1 or 2 more. But with the super flex, I went Anthony Richardson at 4 because he's going in the top 10. He went in the top 10 at our mock to the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to say something crazy here, and I can say this because I know Felix Sharp doesn't watch these videos. If Anthony Richardson really goes top 10 in the NFL draft, I will concede to the argument that you could argue he should be the number 1 pick. Maybe at worst 1, 2 behind Bijan if you really think Bijan should be number 1. And here's why. Our own Mike Valerie, again, part of the NFL draft team, believe he said this on Twitter multiple times. I know he said it on a couple of his shows, does Back to Debbie. Check that out. Drops every Wednesday, him and Corey Pereira. Two of the best Debbie minds, in my opinion, in the business, and also very good NFL draft analysts as well. Said that if you look at what Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts have been doing before, obviously Hurts passing came along, Fields got a little bit better this year. What does that show you that Anthony, why do you think Anthony Richardson can't do that? And I don't think he's wrong. You want to look at what Trey Lance was doing before he got hurt. You even want to go all the way back to Lamar Jackson's rookie season. I know he didn't play a lot of games, came in, was fairly, I don't say raw as a passer, but definitely needed to develop some as a passer. Yet he came in, he was dynamic for fantasy because of his legs. And what has he done over the past, his rookie contract, the past 4 years? He's gotten better and better as a passer. If Anthony Richardson goes to Carolina, sure, maybe they bring in a Jacoby Brissett or somebody for a year to kind of run that offense to give Richardson time because he does need time. I don't want to say biggest detractor. I know people want to put that on me because of the clip that circled social media. That was a bad clip, if we're all being honest. But he does still need to develop some as a passer. He's got the tools. There's no argument about that. Guys, he's a better running quarterback than Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts. I don't know that he's right there with Lamar, but I would honestly say he's probably hanging in that tier, maybe right there on the edge. If Richardson starts for you, he's going to put up points running the ball. And in my opinion, he did look better toward the end of the year, navigating the pocket a little bit and making some better throws. I still think he needs to work on his processing, checking down, and putting different throws out there, not necessarily firing a fastball into every player, varying the speeds on his throws. But at the same time, this guy has the ability to be the best quarterback in this draft because of his tools that, if you're really willing to bet on him, I don't have an issue with you taking him higher. Going to Carolina, he's likely going to start sooner rather than later. I'm taking this. Is not the Will Levis conversation, guys. You don't let what happened with Will Levis, and I'm going to use Trey Lance here as well, burn you into thinking you can't take Anthony Richardson here. Trey Lance was taken top 3. I get that. And He's the fair comparison to make. A running quarterback really needs to work on his passing. What do we do with him for the NFL circles? Why you take him here is that Trey Lance had to take a massive step forward to get to where he was at in the NFL. He was playing in the FBS, guys. The FBS. That's lower than G5 competition and then P5. At least the big difference here with Andy Richardson is he was playing in the SEC for at least 14, 15, 16, 17 games. Like he was at least playing top end competition. The team, the conference that's put the most players into the NFL over the past couple years. He's at least playing those guys. He wasn't playing, he was not playing FBS competition. He was playing the big dogs. I don't think he's got as far to go as Trey Lance did at that time. Don't let that burn you. And the Malik Willis conversation just needs to stop. The NFL showed us what they thought of Malik Willis when they took him in the third round, guys. He's not that. If Richardson goes in the top 10, then he's more comparative to Trey Lance draft capital-wise than anything Will Levis did. And they took him in the third round, same with my guy Desmond Ridder, who I thought should have been a second-round pick last year. The NFL showing you that, man, these guys are probably backups at best. Anthony Richardson goes top 10. The Carolina Panthers organization clearly believes he is their future. They're not wasting that pick. So I could concede the argument that he should be drafted as the one. That being said, again, quarterbacks are king in this format. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers trade up with the Green Bay Packers at 115 and take Will Levis. I have no issue with you taking Levis over any of the receivers or running backs now here at that spot. I would not personally take him over any of the guys I currently have ahead of him in Stroud, Young, Bijan, and Richardson. Now, the difference is him going to Buccaneers. I think you make the same argument that was just made for Anthony Richardson on the starting part, not the tools and talent. I think Anthony Richardson's got a lot more upside ability than Will Levis does personally. But Will Levis likely has a chance to start. Tom Brady, he's gone. Maybe they bring in a quarterback for a one-year kind of rental situation here to allow Will Levis some time to develop. But overall, again, 115, you're taking a guy in the top 20, he is going to be your starter. They view Will Levis as the future of their franchise if they're taking him this high, so I have no issue taking him. Even if he somehow starts struggling, again, I've pointed this out before. We've seen up until earlier this year, Zach Wilson was still going for first-round picks in trades because people will value the quarterback in super flex format. So I have no issue taking Will Levis if he goes this high. If he goes anywhere in the first round, realistically, maybe he falls a little bit further in a first round rookie mock if he doesn't go this high, but 115, that to me is very good draft capital and likely starting opportunity with Tampa Bay. So I'd be willing to take him this high. Next up, I mentioned the Houston Texans were going to get Bryce Young some help in our mock. The first wide receiver off the board, Jackson Smith-Njigba to the Texans. Again, I did not make this pick, so don't come at me. Not a homer pick. I didn't pick him that early. Didn't pick him as the first pick. He almost got top 10 draft capital. I know a lot of people are saying he's a slot-only guy. Look, JSN was incredible for 1 year in college. His first season, COVID year, he made an incredible catch, put his name on the map, but then, didn't unfortunately do much after that. But in his sophomore season, while, yes, a lot of people like to reference the Rose Bowl game where he did put up 300 yards receiving, multiple touchdowns, and a lot of that coming against, it was actually, I believe, like 100, about half of it, a little over half. I think it's like 170 of it, came against a running back playing defensive back. Okay. Had he not played well, though, we would be crushing him. So why is it unfair to give him praise for doing that? On top of that, you go and actually look at what he did during the season. There were multiple games when he outproduced Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, the first two rookie teammates ever to break 1,000 yards in the NFL. That tells me those guys are both pretty damn good. Garrett Wilson, offensive rookie of the year. JSN outproduced them. Yes, may his upside be limited some? Sure. He's not going to be on the outside. He's not going to be a deep threat. But he is a technician in his route running, and I do think he's going to be very good. A lot of people say, oh, well, he's going to have to be Hunter Renfrow or Cooper Kupp. Okay? Like, you just named two of the top, Cooper Kupp's been a top 3 wide receiver for the past 4 years. Hunter Renfrow has had multiple seasons as a wide receiver 1 and typically falls into the wide receiver 2 range. If he lands on a team like the Houston Texans with a quarterback who's not afraid to get him the ball and is going to get him the ball because he's probably the best option on that receiving core as of right now, why are you worried about it then? Because volume is king in fantasy football. So I'm taking JSN here. I think it's a great landing spot to get paired with a guy like Bryce Young. They're going to work together, build with each other through rookie camp. I think it's great. I love it. Next up, this is probably going to be a little bit controversial. I think the next two might be, depending on how you rank your wide receivers in this class. There's a lot of talk that this guy won't even get first-round draft capital. All I can tell you is that he was picked as a first-round pick in our mock draft, and that's what I'm basing it off of. That's LSU wide receiver Kayshon Boutte, who goes to the Los Angeles Chargers at the 21st pick in the first round. If he's getting paired with Justin Herbert, a top offensive line, I still don't know what to think about Kellen Moore coming over as offensive coordinator, but regardless, there's rumors that Keenan Allen may be cut this year, or at least they may redo his deal. If they redo his deal, this is not as fun, but if he does get cut, Kayshon's going to be the starter on the outside. And the one thing I would argue with Kayshon, and I get it, fantasy football is what have you done for me lately? It's always been that way. I get it. If you really go back at what he did as a true freshman and as a sophomore before he got injured, this guy was the locked-in wide receiver one for everybody. That's above JSN, above Quentin Johnston, above Jordan Addison. Kayshon was amazing. He can play anywhere on the field. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. Now, he is more, at least in my opinion, more dangerous as an outside player. And we saw that a little bit this last year when he was forced into the slot and I believe played upwards of 80%. And he just struggled. We don't know how much of that was injury related. We don't know how much of that is yet. He may not have wanted to be there. I mean, look, come on, guys. This 18-year-old kid. His new head coach comes in and says, I don't know who this guy is. Like, that's not what you want to hear. And then everybody hated on Kayshon for not handling well. I'm an 18-year-old kid, and my head coach tell me I don't know who you are. I'm telling you to F off too. I don't care. So I think that Kayshon, the drama behind Kayshon, I think is getting a little bit overblown, but we'll see. The NFL takes him high, then we know they still value him high. Again, I personally don't think he goes this high, but in our mock draft, this is where he was picked. And if he is picked in the 20s, if he's picked at 21 to the Chargers, I've got to take him here, even above the other two wide receivers. And I know most people have ranked ahead of him in their rookie rankings. This next one, it's going to an interesting team. It's Jordan Addison. He gets picked literally one pick ahead of Kayshon Boutte in the NFL draft at 120 to the Seattle Seahawks. He's very Devonta Smith-ish to me. I've said that multiple times. I know that's kind of becoming the popular talk here. I know some people have talked about him being kind of like a Tyler Lockett. That's fine. I can see that too. What's going to be interesting is I don't know where he fits in this offense, though. Maybe they put him strictly in the slot and keep Lockett and Metcalf kind of the outside guys. Maybe they put Lockett in the slot and Addison goes on the outside opposite of DK. Assuming Geno Smith is the starter there again, though, I don't know that he's going to be able to keep all three guys fantasy relevant. And I feel like Jordan Addison, at least for year one, is going to get the short end of the stick. I'm still taking him because much like Jason, I think he's a route technician. This dude can run all kinds of route, good or yak receiver. Like, I love Addison. There's not much splitting him with my top three. He is within my top three, and there's not much splitting my top three wide receivers. I love Addison. I don't just necessarily love the landing spot, but I can't knock guys too far based on landing spot, and I do think what Geno did this year was very impressive. So I think I would take him over Quentin Johnston, who comes in as the fourth wide receiver off the board in our mock draft. He actually comes off as the second. My bad. Behind JSN, a couple spots, 7 picks to the Green Bay Packers at 119. The reason he's fallen to the fourth wide receiver for me, I mentioned there's not much splitting the top guys. Quentin's not in my top three. The size speed freak combination is enticing. And if he puts it all together, he probably is going to end up being the best wide receiver in this class. But there's still a lot of work that he has to do. And I don't love the landing spot for the Green Bay Packers. I feel like it's a little bit of a redundant landing spot when they already have a speed freak in Christian Watson they took last year. It's also kind of funny that the Green Bay Packers finally take a wide receiver in the first round after Aaron Rodgers is likely out the door, and it's going to be Jordan Love taking over. But that's a discussion for another time. I don't know that Jordan Love is going to be able to support two wide receivers. Maybe he's going to be very good. He's looked good in spurts for the Green Bay Packers when he's been asked to start. I actually thought he looked not. I actually thought he looked decent in the Chiefs game. But it's also hard for me to take out of my mind how like scheme dependent he was in college. And so I want to see what he looks like. And I don't know that pairing a raw wide receiver with my questions about Jordan Love is going to help him that much. So maybe Quentin Johnson should be right there behind Will Levis. For me, landing spot doesn't matter much, but when he's already my wide receiver 4, and this is kind of my least favorite, or second least favorite landing spot, actually. If Jordan Addison went to Seattle, I'd probably not like that a little bit less. I'm still taking Quentin Johnson here, 4th out of all the other wide receivers. You don't like it, you can roast me in the comments. This one I know is going to be controversial. So running back, and we talked about, Bijan went in the first round. He was the only running back for us that went in the first round. This was the next running back off the board. And I should also mention the Quentin Johnston pick was taken from the trade with the Packers and the Bucs. The Bucs moving up to get Will Levis. The Packers dropped back a couple picks. That's when they ended up taking Quentin Johnston, first round pick. He goes in the second round, pick 40, next running back off the board. And if he does that, I'm fine taking him here. That's Zach Evans. Again, pick 40 in the draft, top 40 draft capital, New Orleans Saints. I know there's a lot of people that don't like him, and I know there's a lot of people who do like him. He has probably become the most controversial draft pick of this class. Will Levis, I feel like it's you love him or you hate him, and that's fine. I guess that's kind of the same thing here with Evans, but Evans is just all over the place. Will Levis, whether you hate him or not, still in your top 4 quarterbacks. There's people who have Zach Evans at like running back 15, running back 12, 10, 8, 1, 4. It's all over the place. There's no consensus on Evans. What I'll say on Evans is I do think he's being a little bit unfairly hit with some of the narratives on well, Quinshawn outproduced him. Look at that. A true freshman comes into Ole Miss and outproduces him. Evans ahead of time said he didn't want a massive workload. He was trying to save himself for the NFL. It's why he chose Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin was fine with that. Why wouldn't the freshman outrun him when he was getting more carries than Evans, and it was widely publicized that was going to happen? I'm not bashing Evans for that. He's had some interesting runs. I think he's a very patient. You think he's got good vision, good burst. I do think Evans is a very good running back. But he is one of those guys that I feel like we need to wait to see what the NFL says about him, because I just don't know. I view it one way. There's a lot of people I respect view him a completely different way. Other people I respect view him kind of the way I do, but maybe not. Some higher than me. If I'm being honest, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know how to value Zach Evans right now. But in this mock draft, he went as a top 40 pick in the second running back off the board. You have to take him at that value, because at worst, I do think he could be the Mark Ingram to Alvin Kamara. We've seen Kamara struggle a little bit here last year. Some of that due injury related, I'm sure. Probably the weird offseason with all of the court stuff in Vegas, which is also coming up this year. There's a chance that Zach Evans might be the only running back in the New Orleans backfield for a certain amount of time if Kamara is suspended. I'm taking Evans if he goes top 40 and to a team like the New Orleans Saints that needs a bruising running back, which Evans can be. He looks for contact. He takes on contact at time, even though he doesn't need to. I think Zach Evans could be very good in New Orleans, especially if he gets this kind of draft capital. Next up, another divisive running back, but he is getting high-end draft capital in this draft, so I'm taking it. That is Devin Achane to the Bears. This guy is a speed freak. Going at the 53rd pick, so he's getting top 60 draft capital. I know he's a little bit smaller. Bears aren't afraid about that. They took a guy like Tariq Cohen, and they actually had him in the plans of being one of their top running backs. David Montgomery, likely gone. I imagine they'll bring somebody else in. They will not have Devin Achane be just the guy for them. But with his speed and with his receiving ability, I think Achane could be a smash in Chicago paired with Justin Fields and with the player I'm going to take next. Now, what this tells me is they are looking for dynamic playmakers who are just trying to help improve this offense, and I'm all for it. He was the next running back taken in our mock draft. He actually got better draft capital than Jahmyr Gibbs, and if that's the case, I'm taking him. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs is going to end up being better. I currently have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked above Devin Achane, barely, based on my film grades. I don't know that there's a wrong pick here between those two. Maybe you're going to argue Zach Evans shouldn't go there and you put Devin Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs. That's fine. And if you want to know where Gibbs went, again, look at the article. Put a lot of work into this bad boy. But at 12, the last pick in the first round, I'm taking Josh Downs, who was the last pick for wide receivers in the first round. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers in the first round. They get Justin Fields a weapon, a diminutive slot receiver. Now I love Josh Downs. He reminds me a lot of Deontay Johnson in the fact that he will be sitting one play, gets hit, holding his leg, gets carted off, and you think season's over. With 2 plays later, he comes out there limping and then ends up scoring a 30-yard touchdown. Josh Downs is an incredible player. Great, I think, really good speed, great hands, good route runner, but he is diminutive. But if he goes in the first round, folks, I don't know how you don't take him, especially to the Bears that need weapons, right? They need weapons. Justin Fields needs a wide receiver that he can count on. I think Josh Downs could be it. So the last 2 picks going to Devin Achane and Josh Downs, both Bears players. Let's run through this really quick one more time. Number 1, CJ Stroud. 2, Bryce Young. 3, Bijan Robinson. 4, Anthony Richardson. 5, Will Levis. 6, Jackson Smith-Njigba. 7, Kayshon Boutte. 8, Jordan Addison. 9, Quentin Johnston. 10, Zach Evans. 11, Devin Achane. And 12, Josh Downs. Again, guys, check out the mock draft on the website. It is listed as, I believe it's actually the Campus to Canton Staff Mock Draft 2.0. We have done one right before the Senior Bowl. Check it out. Put a ton of work in there. We've got write-ups for every single pick, why we made the picks. We did see who are some of the players that we didn't pick that you would be thinking about taking your rookie draft. Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Luke Musgrave, all went in the second round, but I didn't pick them here. Maybe they'd have gone early second. Probably do a 2-round rookie mock next week. Outside of that, guys, everybody have yourselves a great day. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. We will talk to you guys again soon.